Hello there. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are both free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program. And this is an interactive experience, so please feel free to reach out. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. I don't know if you're picking up on this lately with the Denver Nuggets. It feels a little Bronco-ish what's going on with them right now with all these close games, doesn't it? But here's the problem with that. I don't think that the Nuggets are as good at this, winning these close games, as the Denver Broncos are. Now, last night, they did get a win. Fair play to them. This is why these close games are normally 50-50. Right? Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But what the Denver Broncos were able to do this season was to almost seemingly master the ability to win close games. And they did it in large part due to three things: defense, coaching, and limiting mistakes. Those three things are not the strengths of the Denver Nuggets. And even though they ended up winning last night over Phoenix, did you see the shot Devin Booker got? Did you see how open he was? That was a great look. And a player like Devin Booker, a shooter like Devin Booker, give him the ball 10 times, he probably makes 9 of them. So forgive me if I'm not, feeling like it was as big of a win last night as people want to make it out to be. Now, again, it's a win in the clutch, okay? And you'll take it given what's happened with the Denver Nuggets this season. But I try to be more process-oriented than results. The result was that the Denver Nuggets won the game. The process was as bad as it has been in many of these close games that the Nuggets have ended up losing. And much like the Denver Broncos this season, doesn't it feel like most Nuggets games are falling under the same pattern? And last night went exactly this way. I can save you the time. If you didn't watch last night or you haven't caught a lot of Nuggets games, here's how most of them go. Opponent comes out, cannot miss. Okay? Nuggets, though, because of how talented offensively they are, keep pace. Like, they're a little bit of a ways back, but they're around, right? They're not getting run out of the gym. But the other team seemingly cannot miss. And the law of averages kicks in somewhere in the second quarter where the team just cannot sustain the level of shooting that they had at the beginning of the game. They fall off. Nuggets, because, again, how good they are offensively and because they have the best player in the world. Let me repeat that. The Nuggets have the best player in the world. File that away for a later segment today. And they catch up and they take the lead. And then there's a point either at halftime or shortly thereafter where you kind of feel like the Nuggets are on the verge of blowing the game wide open. And then they'll start turning the ball over. And the other team will get back into it. And then it will be close late. And then the hope of the Denver Nuggets is that they can simply match their opponent shot for shot and have the ball last. Because that game last night could have gone exactly the way that the game against the Lakers a few days ago could have gone. Right? With Luka bearing the shot over Spencer Jones. Devin Booker was more open at the buzzer last night than Luka was on the jumper he hit over Spencer Jones. And last night, the Nuggets were able to match Phoenix shot for shot, and they didn't have the ball last, but they made the last shot and ended up winning the game. I just don't think that it's what they need to do is when the game gets into the third quarter and they have a chance to break it open, they need to do that. Right? And I understand that other teams, especially in the postseason, they're NBA players too. But let's be real here about the level of opponent they were playing last night. Okay, you want to say against the Lakers or Minnesota or OKC, you can't expect the Nuggets to run away with it. And I would agree with you. Phoenix, they should be able to. And I'm not, and it doesn't even have to be taking a 12-point lead and stretching it to 20. But like, stay there. Maintain. But again, the two problems, one, they turn the ball over too much. And even the best player in the world gets bit by the turnover bug in the second half of these games. And two, and this goes to where I don't believe that the Nuggets at the very least have the same level of coaching that the Broncos do in crunch time. Have you noticed that it appears that David Adelman's adjustment to slow down other teams is to foul them? That is also a pattern that is emerging. That perhaps the Denver Nuggets defense is not good enough to limit shots. So instead, they are going to foul. And that is not a great way to go about it, especially when the team that we're looking at, the Nuggets at some point matching up with and needing to topple, is very, very good about using contact and fouls to their advantage. It's already bad enough with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You want to almost intentionally foul them now, too? I don't think it's a great place for any team to live, including this year's Denver Broncos. I don't think it's a good place to live to constantly be in these late game situations decided by one possession. Not if you can help it. And the Nuggets should be able to help it. Again, against a team like Phoenix, they should be able to help it. So what I would say is think back to during the football season. If you were somebody that doubted what the Denver Broncos were doing and called it maybe fluky, that they were winning all of these games, I think you have to maintain some consistency when looking at a game like last night. The fact of the matter is, in the end, the Nuggets got extremely lucky to get out of there with a win. And unless there at least one, probably two of the three things I mentioned that the Denver Broncos had that allowed them to win so many of these one-possession games: defense, cutting down on mistakes, and coaching. I would say at least in order to be OKC, they need to get better in two of those three things. Take your pick. I think any two of the three will do, but it's got to be two of the three. They can't keep turning the ball over. They can't be unable to stop other teams from getting their shots. And David Adelman has got to come up with a better plan than let's just foul them to keep them from shooting. Now, I will credit David Adelman on this, because going back to the flow of most Nuggets games lately, the combination he has found with that second unit is part of the reason why, despite a team like LA or Toronto or last night Phoenix being able to get out to an early lead and the Nuggets being able to come back, is because of that second unit that David Adelman handpicked. So this is not about David Adelman being without ideas at any point in the game. But it's crunch time that I don't know that there are the ideas that the Denver Nuggets need. But he picked this second unit. He sat Jonas Valanciunas again because he felt like he's a liability when the Nuggets try to play a little bit smaller. And the results would say that he's right. So that second unit, and last night the Nuggets were able to survive when Nikola Jokic was on the bench. Can they consistently be able to do that? I mean, we're sitting here less than 10 games left in the regular season, and we are kind of still asking the same questions. I don't think we're any closer to knowing if this year's Nuggets team is truly better in the ways that they needed to be, what we identified they needed to be in order to get over on Oklahoma City. I don't know that we're there. There are a lot of theories. There are a lot of thoughts. Certainly you think that the Nuggets are deeper than they were a year ago. You may think that David Adelman is a good enough coach for the Denver Nuggets to win a title. But you're not 100% sure. And the clutch time thing, it is, and you could chalk up Michael Malone saying this to whatever you want, but he's not wrong. The Denver Nuggets, this is new. Because even with their defensive deficiencies in years past under Michael Malone, they still found a way to buckle down late and get the stops they needed. Not seeing that as much. A shot that Devin Booker makes 9 times out of 10, he happened to miss last night. And it's a big win for the Nuggets, and they get a little bit closer to the Lakers. But it doesn't, much like many of the Broncos wins this season, it doesn't fill me with a ton of confidence that the Nuggets were able to pull that game out last night. Take your thoughts on it. 719-247-1313. Much more on this game, including the performance by Nikola Jokic, because there's another aspect of these games, a familiar pattern, which is Nikola Jokic speed running a triple-double. Want to get into that and some of the talk right now. We've gone from, in 24 hours' time, all about the MVP, and now we're on to best player in the world stuff. And I don't agree with what's being said. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Coming up next, Avs also in action last night, and there is a little bit of a trend emerging with this Avalanche team late in the season. And I actually think that they're very positive trends. That's next here on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Get in on round one action with Avalanche playoff tickets starting at $90. Lock in your priority access by placing a deposit for the 2026-27 hat trick plan today. Visit coloradoavalanche.com/deposit. Speaking of the hockey team of record, it was almost the complete opposite result last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Remember, the Penguins about a week ago kind of shellacked the Avalanche. Or wait, no, they didn't. They actually didn't beat the Avalanche. They beat the Nordiques. See? Nordiques, Penguins kill them. Avalanche killed the Penguins. So, should tell you all you need to know about how much they should use those hideous uniforms moving forward. So Avs make light work of the Penguins. And it's interesting because the way they scored their goals, especially early, which most of their goals were early. They had, 4 in the first period. It reminded me of the Capitals game previously. The Avalanche right now are absolutely feasting on the mistakes of their opponents. Every one of those first period goals that the Avs scored were off of Penguin mistakes. Which, tying it into the previous segment, that's kind of Broncos-esque, right? Any mistakes that you make, a team's going to pounce on them. And it's the sign of a really good team that you're able to do that. I mean, every single one of them was a Penguin mistake. And the reason why this is significant is because how many times during not just the Dallas series last year, but I can even think in the previous years since they won a Stanley Cup, that it felt like the Avalanche were getting beat by a team that was just making them pay for every single mistake. As few as they might be, it seemed like every slip up the Avs made almost inevitably ended up in the back of the net. Certainly Dallas last year was a great example of this. And the Avs are a team that they don't make a lot of mistakes. But it seemed like everyone was backbreaking. And in order for the Avs to win in the postseason, especially against the elite teams, the winner of the Dallas-Minnesota series, whoever's waiting for them on the other side of the bracket in the Eastern Conference, the Avs are going to have to be the team that pounces on mistakes. And they have been doing that the last 2 nights. In fact, it kind of compensates for, in Jared Bednar's mind, what really wasn't that great of a game from the Avs in terms of the way they played.
Yeah, sloppy game from us. We capitalized on some, made some nice plays to score some goals. But we also beat up the puck quite a bit and had some turnovers. And, when we did that, Wedgie made some big saves. It's just that simple. He was, I think he was our best player tonight. And, so we'll take it. It certainly wasn't the game or the performance that we were looking for, but it's certainly the result we were looking for.
And bringing Scott Wedgwood into the conversation and kind of flipping it to when the Avalanche make mistakes, because to Jared Bednar's point, it wasn't a perfect game. The Avs made their fair share of mistakes. It's just that the Penguins were not able to capitalize and the Avalanche were. Well, your best mistake eraser is your goaltender. You give up a breakaway, you have a bad clearance. That's where having the level of goalie that Scott Wedgwood was last night really helps. And so this morning or today, it's the Penguins lamenting all of their mistakes versus the Colorado Avalanche, who feel overall pretty good about the way things went. Scott Wedgwood, I mean, that's two things, right? And if there are some questions remaining with this Avalanche team, I think those are two right there. Right? Are they going to be able to be the team that capitalizes on other teams' mistakes? Because even when the Avalanche were getting bounced by Dallas, you still felt like the Avalanche were the better team through the vast majority of each of those games in that series. But it just came down to a couple of moments in one game, 2 or 3 moments in another, just one in another, and it just seemed like Dallas was able to pounce. Avalanche have to shift that paradigm. They've done that the last 2 games. And maybe one of the other questions is truly, is the level of goaltending where it needs to be to win a Stanley Cup? Whether it's Wedgwood or Blackwood in goal. And every time I get on this microphone and say, I still think Mackenzie Blackwood is the guy, Scott Wedgwood goes out and plays like that. It's becoming more and more difficult for me to sit here on what is becoming an island because Scott Wedgwood is just playing so well. And it's not just the numbers, which would say that Scott Wedgwood has been the better goalie this season. It's also watching a performance like last night. The saves that he's being able to make, I don't know that anyone envisioned Scott Wedgwood making those kind of saves. I mean, this is a guy that has been a career backup. Maybe one of the better backups in the league, but a backup nonetheless. And he looks like Patrick Waugh on some nights. And look, I could sit here and say I still think Mackenzie Blackwood ultimately is the guy for the Avs in goal. But, I mean, this is really a great problem to have if you're Jared Bednar. Right? Because you're not choosing between the lesser of two evils. Your decision isn't being made for you necessarily because one is so much better than the other. Both are playing extremely well, and Jared Bednar, if he so chooses, can just take the guy who at the end of the year was the better one, knowing full well that he has a perfectly capable goaltender to go to. And again, it's why it's so important, too, for the Avs to finish this thing off, get the number 1 seed, and be able to tinker with some things in a series against Nashville that they have almost no chance of losing. Maybe you go Wedgwood game 1, doesn't work out. Here comes Blackwood. You got plenty of time left in the series, and then you got plenty of time until you meet up with when the playoffs really begin, when you match up with Dallas or Minnesota. So Avs last night capitalizing on Pittsburgh mistakes, and their own mistakes didn't cost them because of Scott Wedgwood. Now, usually another type of mistake teams make is committing a penalty. And to further the idea that the Avalanche are doing a better job of capitalizing on mistakes, in the month of March, they have scored 9 power play goals. Marty Necas gets one last night. They have scored 9 power play goals in the month of March, which has lasted 11 games. Every other month of the season, they scored a total of 38 in 58 games. 24% in the month of March, 17% on the season. That 24% has actually brought up their average. And we're back to Marty Necas being the key here. The Avalanche coaching staff saw Necas in the Olympics and how Czechia used him. They are using him the same way, and he's producing in the same way. And when I thought going into the Olympic break that there was just no salvaging this power play, and it was just something that the Avalanche would have to live with and compensate for, I didn't know how Czechia was going to use Marty Necas. I mean, that if something comes along, what I didn't think was based on all the ideas that were thrown out by Dave Haxtell and the Colorado Avalanche leading up into that point. Those ideas weren't working. They got a new one during the Olympics. And they've implemented it, and it's working. Now, they did it during the month of March. They did go 0 for 5 on the power play one night against Minnesota. So the ultimate test obviously becomes, can they cash in on power plays in the biggest series? But there is no doubt that this power play is turning. Is this a blip? Is this the Avalanche introducing a new wrinkle and teams are going to compensate, and the rest of this month and the beginning of April is going to see them go back down? Or is this going to be a trend continuing up going into the playoffs? Stay tuned for that. 719-247-1313. Your thoughts on the Avs win over the Pittsburgh Penguins, and now all of a sudden, now I may be wrong about the Avalanche power play being unsalvageable. I'm not wrong when it comes to my confidence that the Avs were going to hang on to this lead. The hand-wringing that was going on over the Central Division lead evaporating, I think, was a little bit overblown. A week ago, they're 2 points up with a game in hand on Dallas. All of a sudden, a week later, they still got that game in hand, and they're 7 points up. And it's games like this. Okay, yeah, maybe Dallas is capable of taking points from them. Maybe Minnesota is. Maybe Edmonton is. But it's an 82-game season. It's a marathon. There are a lot of teams in the NHL that do not pose the threat to the Avalanche that Dallas, Minnesota, and some of these other elite teams do. And that's where the Avalanche need to eat, and they have. And now they are comfortably in the lead in the Central Division as we head down the home stretch. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, J.K. Dobbins, effusive in his praise of what the Denver Broncos offense can be this upcoming season. Broncos country feeling really good right now after the addition of Jalen Waddle. The hype train is rolling down the tracks once again, and there is maybe no one in Broncos country that is more excited about the potential of this offense than a guy who is a part of it. J.K. Dobbins on with Ian Rappaport on NFL Network.
We got everything, right? We got an embarrassment of riches on this team of talent, so I'm excited. I really am. And I'm going to be even, because, I thought what it is. I got hurt. I missed the last, 7 games in the regular season. I'm fresh. I'm going to be fresh. I'm going to be fresh, and I'm going to be pissed off because I'm tired of the unfortunate stuff, and I know that I can do it. And it's going to happen this year, especially, I'm telling you, it's going to be great. I ain't going to spill too much. I don't want to spill too many beans, but it's going to be great.
So a few things there. First of all, the embarrassment of riches. Let's not. I think the compliment that the Broncos deserve is that they are a well-rounded, well-put-together offense. Now, Jalen Waddle has tied everything together, has put everybody in their proper place. And you can look at Courtland Sutton and say that he's arguably the best number 2 receiver in the NFL. Marvin Mims, one of the most dangerous playmakers as a third wide receiver. J.K. Dobbins has been a very solid running back. Bo Nix is above average at the quarterback position. The offensive line is one of the best. So it is, and Jalen Waddle is one of the better, but it's not Jamar Chase on one side and Justin Jefferson on the other, and the running back room is, Kenneth Walker and Saquon Barkley. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. They are incredibly well put together, which is what's going to give them an opportunity to be one of the better offenses in the NFL. And it's because of the addition of Jalen Waddle and the impact he makes on everyone else around him. So I get J.K. Dobbins' enthusiasm and an embarrassment of riches. They're not a super team, but I will forgive him because obviously it's exciting times. Now, he hit on one of the biggest keys. On paper, you like what the Broncos have everywhere on the offense, including J.K. Dobbins. And I have no doubt the effort he is putting in to try and be there when the Broncos need him the most, which he was not last year. But didn't he try last year? The year before? The year before? Like, it's not J.K. Dobbins' fault. But now that they have Jalen Waddle, one of the big questions is, can J.K. Dobbins stay healthy? Because if he can, now it gives Davis Webb, the new play caller with the Denver Broncos, more of a reason to run the football. Another year of R.J. Harvey, you would think there would be some improvement from him and some improvement from Bo Nix, and you go on down the line. J.K. Dobbins is very much a part of that. But there is risk associated with him. That's why he's on the Broncos in the first place. If there were not these question marks about his health, he'd still be on the Baltimore Ravens. And maybe we would be talking about J.K. Dobbins as one of the best running backs in the league. So I have no doubt that Dobbins is doing everything he can to be healthy, but I also don't doubt that he's done that every year of his career. So J.K. Dobbins is still a big piece to the puzzle here for the Denver Broncos. They cannot go into the playoffs next year not without J.K. Dobbins. They just can't. I don't see how they're going to be able to make it through the AFC, which I think in many ways has improved from what it was a year ago. Should be better than it was a year ago. You would hope so, because last year it was kind of, I wouldn't even say a mixed bag. It was a down year for the AFC that the Broncos, to their credit, were able to take advantage of because they had more right with them than a lot of other teams did. But can you bet on all of that happening again? Can you bet on Joe Burrow being hurt and the Chiefs only winning 6 games? And Buffalo being not what they've been in years past, and Baltimore is going to be floundering. Like maybe 1 or 2 of those things will remain the case, but not all of them. And I just keep going back to the idea, and the Broncos have taken this idea to heart. They've believed it, or else they wouldn't have added Jalen Waddle. They know they need to be better. Here's another way they can be better than their final form: healthy J.K. Dobbins. And it will be a storyline we're following throughout the season, is whether J.K. Dobbins remains on the field when it ultimately matters, when it matters the most. Now, the third part of that, what is he referring to at the end where he doesn't want to spill the beans? Is there something else coming down from the Denver Broncos? They just converted Jalen Waddle's contract to take less of a cap hit. And I said yesterday on this very program, I was thinking that the Broncos were going to do nothing, even when they made some contract adjustments. And I ended up with egg on my face because now Jalen Waddle's a Denver Broncos. So I will not put it past Denver that they are getting ready to make another addition. But the list is dwindling. Could this be someone at the tight end position? I think that's where you would kind of have to be looking. Is Evan Ingram good enough but not good enough, right? Or good enough which isn't good enough for where the Denver Broncos are? I think that he's just talking more about Davis Webb being the play caller. I think he's talking more about this Broncos offense being more dynamic than they were a year ago. Maybe being a little more creative in some ways. And Sean Payton's a creative play caller, don't get me wrong, but some new ideas are going to be out there on Sundays. I think that's kind of what he's referring to. That's my take on it. But I wouldn't be shocked at this point if the Denver Broncos are looking to upgrade another position in light of restructuring Jalen Waddle's deal. I just don't. I just think you can. The A.J. Brown thing is not going to happen, right? That's not where they're going. So temper your expectations. I don't think it's a Jalen Waddle level move that they're making. But you don't have to. If you're the Broncos, you don't need to make a huge move now. You made the huge move. You got the guy to put everyone in their proper place and to tie everything together and to elevate this offense. You already did that. Now, if you want to, go through the roster with a fine-tooth comb and say, we like this guy, but maybe we could do a little bit better, that's what good teams do. So I'm 100%. I mean, certainly the draft prep, I don't know how much it changes, but The Broncos got a little while. They won't be on the clock for a long time here. I wouldn't doubt that George Paton is looking around making some calls. And if there's a slight upgrade at a position that they can find, I'm sure that the Denver Broncos will be trying to do that, because it's clear with the Jalen Waddle move that they know what this is about. They know what opportunity is in front of them, and they know what happens if they just sit idly by and hope that it all comes to fruition what they're trying to do. They went out, they were aggressive, they paid a big price to bring in Jalen Waddle. Clearly they get it. But I going back to J.K. Dobbins, I get why he's excited. It just, even though it's not that much change in terms of the number of guys that are, and in fact, it's just one guy. That's it. Jalen Waddle, he's the only guy different. But it changes the way you look at this Broncos offense entirely. Because now you're not looking at Courtland Sutton and saying he's the number one option. Now he's the number two option. You're not doubling a number two option. How much more effective could Courtland Sutton be? How much more effective can Marvin Mims be, and J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey and Bo Nix? That's the power of the move that they made bringing in Jalen Waddle. I'll get your perspective. Do you think that there's something else that the Broncos are cooking up that J.K. Dobbins doesn't want to spoil? 719-24-7-1313. Coming up next, we got into the MVP conversation, and I've conceded that while Nikola Jokic certainly has an MVP case, it is not one of the 1, 2, or maybe even 3 strongest MVP cases. But there's another step beyond that one popular sporting website took that I absolutely disagree with, and how they could do that in the wake of the performance that Nikola Jokic had last night is completely beyond me. That's coming up next. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Appreciate you watching the show, which you can totally do anywhere you scroll. Granted, you follow at 740 KVR at Extra Sports 1300. While you are there, you can like, you can subscribe, and most importantly, you can comment and interact with this show, which is not always the case with some of the shows that you watch on said platforms. Of course, there are other ways to reach out. 719-247-1313 is the number to do that if you want to call or text. Producer Ray Dominguez is standing by eagerly awaiting your communication. Nikola Jokic last night in the Nuggets nail-biter of a win over the Phoenix Suns, nearly had the fastest triple-double of his career. It did not end up being that. I believe it is the third fastest. But we have graduated from Nikola Jokic getting a ton of triple-doubles to now how fast can he get it done? Like, it's not enough anymore that he just merely gets a triple-double. That's boring. Can he do it? Like, how fast can he speed run? How fast can you beat Super Mario? My kids have shown me these videos where these people just speed run through the games that took me months to be able to beat. And I think it actually, in that case, takes the enjoyment out of it. Wait, you're not going to try to get the extra life? Wait a minute. You're not going to try to get 100 coins? Wait, there's a Goomba or whatever they were called. You're not going to step on him. You're just going to run straight through. Where's the fun in that? I don't know if we're there with Nikola Jokic. I think it is quite amusing and at times just awe-inspiring that he's able to impact the game in so many different ways so quickly throughout a game. But it's just the next level of Nikola Jokic. I can do this whenever I want to. Now I'm going to get it done earlier in games. And he is on track once again this year to average a triple-double. And he is averaging more points, rebounds, assists per game than he did in his last MVP season. But yet, I don't think he's the MVP of the league. I don't think he's top 2. And I don't think that that's a crazy take at all. And I think it's okay that we look to other stories and other players, not because we're tired of Nikola Jokic, not because we have something against him and say, like it used to be, well, he can't have 3 because Michael only had X number. Like, nothing like that. It just lets look at these remarkable stories like what Wemby and the Spurs have done, what Luka has done with the Los Angeles Lakers, and this is a one-season award. I think it's okay to say that Nikola Jokic in perpetuity doesn't get the MVP every year. I think that's fine. Now, I talked about this yesterday when Wembanyama was making the case that defense should be valued higher in the MVP conversation. Statistically, you can't argue against Nikola Jokic. Notice that's why Wemby, we're talking about defense. Shea, we're talking about team success. Luka, we're talking about, the way he has turned around this Lakers team and made them viable contenders with basically the same group that you looked at 2 years ago and said they're never going to get it done. But you can't bring up statistics. It's just you can't do it because Nikola Jokic just continues, and it's like the NFL when we had the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Statistically, Josh Allen was not superior to Lamar Jackson, but we looked at something else that is as good of a reason to vote for an MVP as the best stats, which is who did more with less. So I'm okay with all of this, and you should be too. But one thing that you should not stand for as a Nuggets fan is the idea that this somehow makes Nikola Jokic not the best player in the world. These are two separate conversations. MVP is one season. Best in the world is a running total over multiple years. Michael Jordan didn't win MVP every year. LeBron James hasn't won MVP every year. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, go back through Wilt Chamberlain. They didn't win every MVP. But there was an understanding that there was still another level that you could be at, that these players were, that maybe just this particular season MVP had not yet reached. And I thought we were all on the same page here. The Ringer has crossed the threshold for the first time in 3 years. Nikola Jokic is not the best player in the NBA on their rankings. They have put Shea up there. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP. He is the reigning MVP. He might win it again, but I don't think that he should. So already there's my first problem with it, is that I don't even think Shea is the most deserving of being the MVP this year. Not even win back-to-back MVPs. And yet he's now put above Nikola Jokic. Like, we have learned over the last couple of years, really ever since the Nuggets won a title, that with everything the NBA has become and all of these rules they have put into place, that the importance of depth is so much greater than it has been in previous years when we were in the super team era and, the Miami Heat were pulling guys from the local Y to fill out their roster when they had Bosh, Wade, and LeBron, and it was totally fine. Right? Even as Cavs teams or the Golden State Warriors, they're just filling out the roster with dudes. It didn't matter. Now it does. And you have to acknowledge that part of the reason why Shea has had the success he has had and put up the numbers he has had is because he has still the best team behind him of anyone in the NBA. And I don't want to make that to totally diminish what he is doing, but there is a balance here. And it feels like Shea, not even, even if you start the year before he won the MVP, which he was tremendous. We're not even 3 years here. We're not even at the end of year 3 of the emergence of Shea, and you're going to replace a guy that's won 3 MVPs, won a title, and has broken everyone's brains when it comes to what is statistically possible for an NBA player. To me, this is premature. And to me, this is wrong. Shea is a brilliant player. And he is the second best player in the league. But how prisoner of the moment do we get in sports? And I remember I held out for a while on proclaiming Nikola Jokic the best player in the world. I held out because I said it's not a year, it's not 2 years. I mean, we got to look at 3 at least. It feels like the Ringer is suffering from the same affliction that some of the Joel Embiid MVP voters were. It's just got to be different. Is there a good reason behind that? Not really, but we just want it to be different. We've put Jokic here for so long. It's time for a change. And I don't think that's the right way to do things. And I don't know, the timing could not be worse. Right? The day after Nikola Jokic threatens to have the fastest triple-double in the history of the NBA, which that record is held by altogether now, Nikola Jokic. Like, what? I legitimately do not understand the argument that Shea has surpassed Nikola Jokic as the best player in the world. I really don't. And I don't hate on Shea as much as a lot of people in this state do. I haven't once until right now as I'm speaking have brought up the foul baiting. Have not done it. Because I think that his ability to draw fouls, while it goes a little bit overboard at times, is a skill. It is a skill that he has perfected. And I give him credit for that, rather than constantly trashing him like so many other people do. But come on. Who impacts the game in more ways than Nikola Jokic in the NBA right now? And the answer is no one. No one does. Is he the best at everything? No. But he is the best at enough and multiple things. And enough to be still the best player in the world. And then, so I don't agree with that whatsoever. And then getting back to the MVP, then you have Michael Wilbon, who I like a lot. Obviously, like you, PTI, everyday required viewing when I was younger, says he's got Wemby and Shea. And it's like, don't even get me started on the guy that is only plays one end of the floor in Luka, with no mention. So is Nikola Jokic in Michael Wilbon's mind behind a guy in Luka Doncic that does not play one side of the floor? Like how quickly we forget. That's what this is all about. How quickly we forget, how quick we are to move on to the next thing. And there's a balance here. It's okay to recognize the next big thing and to reward it if it warrants that. But we should still keep in perspective the big picture here. Nikola Jokic isn't behind a guy that you say does not play both ends of the floor. And Nikola Jokic has not been toppled as the best player in the world. We haven't even seen, like, Shea beats him once, and now he's the best player in the world. We haven't even gotten the rematch yet. Like, look at this like a boxing rivalry. Like, there's always the rematch before you say this guy is now the best. If it was this guy was the best and he lost, he gets a chance to go back and retain his title. Jokic should be able to do the same. And then if those two go head to head in a playoff series and you come away saying, man, Shea was better than Jokic in this series, then because this is still an individual honor. This is still talking about an individual player, not a team. So if Shea and Jokic meet up at some point in these playoffs and you come away saying that Shea is the better player than Jokic, then we will have this conversation. But because the Thunder are better than the Nuggets now, which I would agree with, that does not then extend to Shea is now the best player in the world. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on that. More Drive Time Sports after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. The NFL is really pushing it. They really are. They're seeing how much they can get away with. And I don't think they've gotten to the point where we're going to push back. I really don't. So really, we only have ourselves to blame. But the NFL today announced that their opener is actually going to be on a Wednesday night and not a Thursday night. Because the Thursday game is one of their other bad ideas. Bad in terms of the fan in America. They're playing a game in Australia on Thursday. So in order to make up for that, because that is the opener is usually the defending Super Bowl champions, banner raising and all of that kind of stuff. The NFL took, already I don't like the Thursday thing. I really don't. I think it's awesome and baseball is doing this same junk because tonight the Giants and the Yankees are a standalone opener a day before opening day. I don't like it, but in the list of my grievances against Major League Baseball and with the NFL and the Thursday night opener, in my list of grievances, it's down the list a little bit. So I push through. Don't call me a hero. So, but at least make the Thursday the defending Super Bowl champion. And the NFL says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put the Rams and the Niners in Australia. And you're going to be watching at night a game that's taking place during the day. Which you think is not a big deal. It's a very big deal, and it is very disorienting. Have you ever watched a sporting event that's taking place in Australia? Like, you don't know what day it is over there. Your sun is down, their sun is up. They're talking about breakfast. We're talking about dinner. Like, it's not the best viewing experience. Like, all of these international games. But even going to Australia shows how much the NFL keeps pushing and pushing to see until they reach a point where NFL fans revolt. Like, it was one thing to put these games in Europe. And we were just talking yesterday about how the Mountain Time Zone is ideal for viewing games, not when they're being played in Berlin. There's no good time in America to watch a game that's taking place in Berlin. Especially our game. Like, if I'm going to watch Bayern Munich, then you know what? I'm going to have to deal with the fact that I'm on German time. But the NFL being exported over there and the game starting at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, it's not good. And so they're like, we're going to push it even more and we're going to play in Australia. It's going to be an even weirder time zone. And oh, by the way, because we can't, at least they have the decency to not make Seattle open up over there. Well, we got to do something about this, so we're going to play on Wednesday. And this is the precursor to, I don't know if you saw this little nugget coming out from the NFL. They want to play a game the night before Thanksgiving. Like, I'm sorry. NFL, please, and I say this because I will never quit you. You have to do the right thing. You have to be stronger than I am. I will not stop watching the NFL. And we as a population will not stop watching the NFL. But please, stop doing this stupid stuff where now we're having to part of the beauty of the NFL is it's the easiest to consume because you could set aside these times, these limited times. Like with the Nuggets, you got to watch at, they're playing a 3:00 in the afternoon game on a Sunday. Fast forward to Tuesday, they're playing at 9:00 at night. Tonight, they're playing at 8. Like the NBA all over the place. The NFL, it's like it's so neat and compact, and it's Sunday, but we also have Monday, and we're adding Thursday, and it's okay, that's fine, but stop doing more. And now it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and Wednesday. Thanksgiving Eve. It's enough. But that's what it's going to be. Seattle's going to open on a Wednesday, which just sounds bizarre. And then we're going to get a game play between the 49ers and the Rams at 10:30 a.m. local time in Australia, and it's going to be a game that we watch at night. And then we have Sunday, and then we have Monday. They're just greedy. Like, and I don't have the willpower to turn it off, but I could still say that they're being incredibly greedy and not looking out for the fan. They're just not. And there's no way to spin it. You open up on a Thursday, and think about the people in Seattle. You open up on a Thursday, and it's like, well, the next day is Friday. Maybe some people can take off of work. That game's, I guess in Seattle, it's okay because they'll be, earlier, but some of these openers that have taken place in the Central and the Eastern time zone, they're very late. But they have the option, some of them, going to work late, not going to work at all. Now, a lot of people work remotely and and it's manageable. Now you're asking the folks in Seattle to celebrate their Super Bowl title smack dab in the middle of the work week. To leave work on a Wednesday to get to the stadium and then turn around after what is going to be a late night, even on the West Coast, to get up the next day and go to work. There's no way to spin it that this is better for anyone except the NFL owners. And you could say what you want about the NHL and Major League Baseball and the NBA, and they are rife with problems. But I would say that the league that looks out less and cares less about their fans than anybody is the NFL. But their product is just so dang good. We can't. Like, I know this dessert is terrible for me, but I'm going to eat it anyway. So that's one of their bright ideas that's actually going to happen. Here's another another one that's going to happen, which is nothing's going to happen. The competition committee, every year they throw out like a bunch of possible rule changes. Guess what's not on the docket? The tush push. This actually, I don't have a problem with. I thought that they would kick it out of the game. I thought they'd get rid of it. But it's amazing that now the appetite to get rid of it is not as strong when Philadelphia is down. So if Philadelphia ever figures this thing out again, then everyone's going to be back to complaining. And then the NFL, it's kind of, even though I don't have a problem with the tush push, it's kind of another reason why the NFL just doesn't really care as much as they may say about the fans. Because the fans right now aren't screaming about the tush push. So they're not even talking about it. And then when you get mad again about the tush push, then they say, well, we're going to look at it. You bet we will. And then they'll kick the can down the road. So tush push stays. And then one of the other big problems in the NFL, their officiating, it might get worse. This is from Adam Schefter. Tweeted out a list of things that the competition committee is looking at. Way at the bottom of a very long tweet. I don't know why Elon gave us 240 characters. This is too much to read. But way down on the list at number 5 is maybe the most important one, because a lot of it is a kickoff, and I'm so tired of the kickoff. Just do whatever you want. I'm not going to watch the kickoff. That is my time to go to the refrigerator or check my phone or make sure that my kids aren't killing each other in the basement. I'm not watching the kickoff. So do whatever you want with it. It's not making me watch the kickoff. But way down on the list at number 5, for 1 year only, allowing the NFL officiating department to correct clear and obvious misses by on-field officials that impact the game. Man, this is a game changer. Now eye in the sky gets to overrule. Cooks makes the catch, and the eye in the sky can say it's a catch, even though it's ruled not a catch on the field. That's a game changer. Well, that's not what they're doing. It would be a 1 year thing in the event of a work stoppage with their referees. Was anybody on this story? Did anybody see that the referees might go on strike? I was not aware of this. So I breezed right past the idea of the eye in the sky overruling the official. I'm like, wait a minute. We're getting worse officials in the NFL? Like that might be a thing? That's these insiders, man. They know how to do the bidding of their sources of information. You had the other day the completely misleading report about Travis Kelce's contract. That was just a puff piece for Travis Kelce's agent and was in no way the reality of the deal that Travis Kelce was getting from the Kansas City Chiefs. But you do it because you get that information from the agent himself. Adam Schefter has somebody on the competition committee, and they're like, Barry, put this at the bottom that we might have worse officials this year. Put it at the very bottom with all this stupid kickoff stuff. They do a good job, these NFL insiders. They know how to keep that information flowing. So yeah, even when the NFL is not doing anything and free agency is over and the draft isn't coming up for another month, they still find a way to have a lot of stuff to talk about. Wednesday night openers, Thursday night games in Australia, a potential referee stoppage. The tush push is not even going to be discussed when it comes to banning it. Any of those pique your interest? 719-247-1313. Speaking of the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks are for sale, but so are the rights to the Seattle Supersonics. Let's play a fun game. If you were a billionaire, which would you rather have? That's next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. If you have more money than you know what to do with, and you want the gravitas that comes along with being a major professional sports team owner, may I interest you in Seattle, Washington for your next residence? And heck, you don't even have to live there if you don't want to. You are a billionaire. Seattle is taking on any of the richest people they can find because already you had the Seattle Seahawks going on sale, and they're going to fetch more money than even Greg Penner paid for the Denver Broncos. And then Adam Silver announces today that they are moving forward with exploring expansion to Seattle and Las Vegas, which you know what that means. The NBA is expanding to Vegas and Seattle. You know, you think these people make up just 1% of the world's population, but still, when you do the math in a world of trillions of people, 1% is still a lot of very wealthy human beings. So even at a price tag that may shock you, they're going to find who they need. There's going to be an NBA team in Vegas, and there's going to be an NBA team in Seattle, and they will have a line out the front door for people to buy the Seattle Seahawks. In fact, the price is the same. So here's a fun thought exercise. You are a billionaire, and you like Seattle, and why wouldn't you? Seattle is a terrific city, especially for sports. Would you take your $7 billion and buy the Seattle Seahawks, or buy the rights to the soon-to-be-named Sonics? If it's not the Sonics, then we riot. But the expansion NBA team in Seattle. Now, I will tell you how these rich people think that have way more money than you and I will ever see in our lives combined. For them, it is a no-brainer. If you can be welcomed into the fraternity of NFL owners, you do that without question any day of the week. It is the most, I just got done talking about all these things that I think are really bad ideas from the NFL, and in the same breath saying that I will watch every single one of these games. I don't like it. I don't want the NFL to do it, but I will watch anyway. And therein lies the power of the National Football League. And I will say thank you after watching these games. Thank you, NFL, for allowing me to consume your product and ignore the outside world for yet another day of the week. No matter what the price tag is for the Seattle Seahawks, which is a reported $7 billion, it is worth it, because soon it will be worth $10 billion. And then it will be worth $15 billion. And there is no end in sight to how much their investment will grow. The best investment is an NFL team. You have more power as an NFL owner when it comes to the dynamic between the players' union and the owners, right? You will join the most powerful fraternity of people in sports. So it from their perspective, I don't know that there's a real debate. What it has to be, if you are going to take the basketball team, what's behind door number 2, which are the Seattle Sonics, and that has to be a vanity play. Really, because when I was thinking about it, what would I do? And I'm not quite to $1 billion yet. I'm working my way there, slow and steady. If I'm on this planet for another 1,000 years, I'll be about probably poorer than I am now. But if I had $1 billion, I would want to be the guy that brought back the Seattle Sonics. Is there a more powerful thing to do in sports than to bring back the Sonics? There is no movement in all of sport that has more support than to bring back the Seattle Supersonics. And you could be the person to do that. That is vanity. I will admit that. And investing in sports teams is a vanity play from a lot of these rich people. Like, they're not getting rich being a sports owner. They get rich doing other things that are not as, public facing and all that kind of stuff. And then they buy these teams to be more front and center, right? But bringing back the Sonics, the motivation to do that, to be the hero of Seattle, and to start from scratch. I mean, think about when you played Madden or NBA 2K or whatever your game of choice was. Now, you had a favorite team, perhaps, and you would want to be your favorite team in that sport. But what would be kind of the second thing? Would you want to take over a dynasty, a roster that was already set? No, you build the thing up. Either you take one of those teams and trade everybody away and build it back up, or you would take over like a Cleveland Browns or a Jacksonville Jaguars and try to build them up. This is what you can do with basketball in Seattle. With football in Seattle, job's done. I mean, you're not even Calvin Booth. If Calvin Booth would have joined up the year after, if Tim Connolly would have taken the Wolves job after they won a title and Calvin Booth takes over. Like, you can't even put the finishing touches on a championship team. You're going to get no credit. I mean, even look at Greg Penner. Look at how much of a hero he has become. He saved the Denver Broncos, a team that has won multiple Super Bowls, but because they haven't won in a while, everybody loves him. You open yourself up if this matters to you. And I think you can wipe your tears away with the many more billions of dollars you're going to make as the NFL owner. But you're going to be looked at as the reason why they're not winning. If Seattle doesn't get back to the Super Bowl, or if Seattle falls on hard times, it's going to be your fault. So everything I say, as I'm trying to think through this here, tells me that the vanity play is what I want. I want to be the hero of Seattle. I don't want to be the guy that is blamed if the Seattle Seahawks don't get back to another Super Bowl. And I want to get credit if my team does succeed, because there was no one before me that laid the groundwork. So to me, I would pick the Sonics. But if you ask billionaires, I'm sure they would be looking at, unless, of course, they were big basketball fans, but I think they'd be looking at the NFL. But it's the same price. So the NBA is going to expand, even though they're not saying they're expanding. They're exploring expanding. They're going to expand. And there are some people out there that are saying that there's going to be too much of a market saturation in Las Vegas. You can't have the Raiders and the A's and the Golden Knights and this new NBA team in the same city at the same time. And I will tell you that I used to be one of you. I used to be one of those people. Now, my reasons were because I had this antiquated idea of and how silly do I look all these years later about, you can't have the betting industry and these leagues so close together. I used to be one of those guys. In fairness, that was a popular take at the time. Now it just looks objectively ridiculous because all of these leagues are inundating you with betting. And then I thought, the people in Las Vegas, I just don't know that they will be as sports crazed. Many of them have been without it for so long. You put everything on the Strip. And one thing I know from family members that have lived in Las Vegas is if you live in Las Vegas, you do not go to the Strip. And you're going to put everything there and deal with all of that stuff. I just didn't think that major professional sports was going to work in Las Vegas. 3 teams later, I'm like, are there more teams? Can you put more teams? Because this is what I realized. Now, there are a passionate group of Raider fans in Las Vegas. There are a passionate group of Golden Knights fans in Vegas. And there will be a group of passionate A's fans when the A's finally move to Las Vegas. But I will tell you that what I underestimated and what I should have seen the whole time is the fact that it takes 2 fan bases to fill up a stadium. Here in Colorado, yeah, we have pockets of Blues fans and Wild fans and Bruins fans and all that kind of stuff, but it's the Avs fans that pack Ball Arena, right? At a Golden Knights game, not even close. It's truly a partnership between the Golden Knights fan base and the fan base of whatever team's visiting them. They have plenty of people. Every time I go out to Vegas, and I go multiple times a year for Air Force women's basketball, usually check out a Golden Knights game, or at least I'm around the arena. And I see as many jerseys for the other team as I see. I should have known that. And I didn't. Does it make Vegas a great sports city? I don't know if I could go that far. Let's not put it above, a St. Louis, a Denver. And I know Denver is a little transient, but like Vegas is a great sports city because it's a great city to watch sports in. There isn't a massive home ice advantage for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's why they play their music so loud. So you can't tell that there are an equal number of people in the building rooting for the other team. But it still makes for a fun atmosphere. I've been to Golden Knights games. And I that was another thing that I hated until I tried it. And I'm like, it's not my favorite, but it's fun. So is there another league? I'm looking past the NBA here. Give me the next league. Major League Soccer? English Premier League? You want to go overseas? I mean, the NFL is clearly angling for a European division. Why doesn't the English Premier League put a team in Las Vegas? I would say Las Vegas would be a perfect place. If you're just looking to put butts in seats, it works. I've seen it firsthand. Raiders games, Golden Knights games, and it will be the case for the A's and this new NBA team. They will not have trouble selling out the place. Now, will you have a true home court, home ice, home field advantage? That's another story entirely. 719-247-1313. Which would you purchase if you had unlimited wealth? Seahawks or the Sonics? Coming up next, we'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show. You're listening to Drive Time Sports on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Back after this. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or you're watching wherever you scroll through those profiles at 740 KVOR and at Extra Sports 1300. The number to interact, 719-247 1313, or you could just drop a comment wherever you may be watching. Easy enough. Perhaps you have a thought or two on these, the three stories that are driving the show, which I will eventually get to right now. All right, it was a productive evening on the Colorado sports scene. Let's start with the Nuggets for story number one.
Booker throws it on the right side to O'Neal. O'Neal hands it off over to Booker. Booker for the win. Missed it. Rebound O'Neal, and there's the horn. The Denver Nuggets sweep away the Phoenix Suns. Final tonight for the Valley. 125 Denver, 123 Phoenix. Oh, baby. Oh, man, that's a monster win.
Far be it from me to rain on the parade of Jason Kosmicki on the Altitude Radio Network, as heard on Extra Sports 1300. Now, I would say that last night was a catharsis because the Nuggets have lost of their fair share of close games. But I am not going to sit here and say that the demons have been exorcised and this team is clutch. This team is trying to do the same thing that the Broncos did all season long. I just don't think they're as good at it. The key for the Broncos winning all of these close games, cutting down on mistakes. The Nuggets made it a game late, or the Suns made a game late because the Nuggets were rife with turnovers in the second half. The Broncos won a lot of these close games because of coaching. Seems like David Adelman's big idea right now to slow down other teams is to foul them. And the Broncos were able to win a lot of these close games because they had an elite defense. Devin Booker got exactly the look he wanted on that final possession. He was open. Best player for the Phoenix Suns, terrific shooter, maybe a little off balance, but not enough, and he just missed it. Can't be so results-oriented. Got to be more process-driven, and the process was poor again from the Denver Nuggets, and every one of these games is following the same blueprint. Other opponent jumps out, shooting the lights out early. Nuggets hang around because their offense is so good. When their opponent comes back down to earth a little bit because they can't sustain shooting 65, 70% from the field, that's where the Nuggets strike. They turn the tide. They take a lead, and they even get to the point where you think they're ready to blow the game open. And then the turnovers start. And then the opponent gets back in the game. And here we are, last minute, back and forth we go. And the Nuggets' best hope is that Devin Booker misses an open three or the Nuggets have the ball last. It is not a formula for success. They got to figure out a way to win these games, truly win them and not lose them. I think that's the way I would put it. The Nuggets didn't lose last night. I don't know if they won because that game could have been wrapped up. And I know my producer is one of these people. Would have been nice if the Nuggets would have wrapped it up a little bit earlier in the game. It's just, whether it's in crunch time, whether it's in the third quarter, I put it under the banner of does this team have that killer instinct? They used to have that. I just haven't seen it enough. And I don't know that I saw it last night. Like, I saw it from Jamal Murray. I saw it from Nikola Jokic, which I always expect to. But there's 5 guys on the court. And maybe that 2-man game of Jokic and Murray is going to carry them through much of this postseason. But I really have a hard time believing they're going to win a title being this inconsistent, leaving this much of the game up to chance like they do. But it was a win. And that beats the alternative. Here's story number 2, courtesy of the Avalanche.
Oh, there's one back for Cale McCall right down the slot. One-timer and H's. He scores! It's a Marty party. It's a power play goal, and the Avalanche have a 3-1 lead with John 3:16 to go in the first period.
Connor McGahee on the Altitude Radio Network, also coincidentally heard on Extra Sports 1300 because the Nuggets tipped off at 9 o'clock at night. What you heard there, you don't have to adjust your radio. The Avalanche scored a power play goal. And guess what? They've been scoring more power play goals. They have 9 in the month of March in just 11 games. Marty Necas has been the catalyst. With them putting him in that spot that Czechia had him in during the Olympics, it's unleashed him. And he's doing on the one side of the ice what Mikko Rantanen used to do on the other. But what the Avalanche have done, especially over the last couple of games, which does show a killer instinct that maybe I'm not really seeing right now with the Denver Nuggets. The Avalanche right now are making their opponents pay for every mistake they make, including taking penalties. 2 games ago against Washington, the 2 goals that the Avs scored in regulation, both off of Washington mistakes. Last night, the 4 goals that they had, including the power play goal, all born out of mistakes by the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's something that the Avalanche have been on the other side of the last couple of years in the postseason. It seemed like the Avalanche were the team that had their back broken every time they dared to make one stupid mistake. That is one of these things as we're fine-tuning this Avalanche team and making sure that they can win in all situations in the playoffs. That's a paradigm that needs to be shifted here. They need to be the team that capitalizes on other teams' mistakes, not be the one that makes the mistakes that other teams capitalize on. In these last 2 games, they have done an absolutely brilliant job of it. And it's actually compensated for, in Jared Bednar, their head coach's mind, a lackluster performance overall. But they capitalize on turnovers and mistakes, and the mistakes that the Avalanche made, which were not few, were erased by the goaltending of Scott Wedgwood. Again, every time I try to say, I still think it's Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood says, you're making a false choice. It's not between Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. It's between Mackenzie Blackwood and Dominic Hasek. That's what you're trying, because that's what he looks like. He was unbelievable last night. And he's done it on more than one occasion. So it's becoming more difficult as time goes on for me to sit here and say that I still think Mackenzie Blackwood is ultimately the goaltender that the Avs win the Stanley Cup with. Which is, like, it's fine. I'd be wrong, but it's fine if Scott Wedgwood delivers these kind of performances throughout the playoffs. But what's really come into focus these last 2 games for the Avalanche is how their mistakes are being compensated for which you have to do to be a great team. Like, it's a team game. Got to have somebody pick you up. And last night it was Scott Wedgwood. And then you also have to be the team that pounces on the mistakes by your opponent. And the Avs have done that the last 2 games. And now all of a sudden you look up and the Avs, with a game in hand, are 7 points up on Dallas. They are comfortably in command of the Central Division. 6-2 was the final score, Avs and Penguins. Here is story number 3.
We got everything, right? We got an embarrassment of riches on this team of talent, so I'm excited. I really am. And I'm going to be even, because, I thought what it is. I got hurt. I missed the last, 7 games in the regular season. I'm fresh. I'm going to be fresh. I'm going to be fresh, and I'm going to be pissed off because I'm tired of the unfortunate stuff, and I know that I can do it. And it's going to happen this year, especially, I'm telling you, it's going to be great. I ain't going to spill too much. I don't want to spill too many beans, but it's going to be great.
That is Broncos running back J.K. Dobbins on NFL Network. Amazing the difference that Jalen Waddle makes just for the outlook of this Broncos team. And I'm sure J.K. Dobbins, even without Jalen Waddle, would be saying maybe some of the things that he said there. But there's a belief behind those words. You've heard the Denver Broncos talk about all the weapons they have on offense before. Did you really believe them? Now that Jalen Waddle's in the mix, and now everybody in that wide receiver room slots down one. Now you look at it and, man, this offense is balanced. They got options for Bo Nix. And they have a chance to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. It's like, it's looking a little like low-calorie San Francisco, right? I wouldn't put anybody except Waddle even in a conversation with some of the weapons that San Francisco has had over the years. But my point is that you look at this team and you say they can beat us a number of different ways. We take away this guy, but this guy still might hurt us. Before, when Courtland Sutton was the number 1 wide receiver, you didn't really fear the Broncos offense. With Jalen Waddle and his explosive playmaking ability, you do a little bit. And then you're like, oh, and then we also have to worry about a physical mismatch in Courtland Sutton and this little speedy guy in Marvin Mims and J.K. Dobbins, when healthy, that is a very good running back and a quarterback that on occasion can beat us with his legs. This is the perception changer that Jalen Waddle is. And it's why J.K. Dobbins, I think you believe him when he says those things. It would be kind of lip service if this were a year ago. But the addition of Jalen Waddle, it changes almost everything for the Denver Broncos. It really does. Now, as far as him not wanting to spill the beans, I told you yesterday, the restructuring of Jalen Waddle's deal, I wouldn't put it past Denver to make another move. But the idea that they're going to make a move as big as Jalen Waddle, no way. I think J.K. Dobbins is more just talking about what Davis Webb is bringing to the table, where he's different than Sean Payton. And maybe that's got the team excited. Maybe there's some different ideas going on here. I think that's kind of what he's getting at, but maybe there might be a new Denver Bronco to join J.K. Dobbins on this offense sooner rather than later. I don't know. J.K. Dobbins did not want to spill any of the beans. Not one. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. Coming up next, You think it's going to be rough for you to turn around after watching the Nuggets till midnight last night and then turn around and watch them again tonight. What about playing these two games? The Nuggets sound off on that next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. The Denver Nuggets tonight are right back in action against the Dallas Mavericks in a game you can hear at 8 o'clock on Extra Sports 1300. Now, that would be just normal information, no significance to it, if it had not been for the fact that they just played a very, very late game last night and are having to turn around and play another game today. There is no team in the NBA that has gotten the short end of the stick more when it comes to scheduling than the Denver Nuggets, which is not a new phenomenon. We have to say that. You live in the Mountain Time Zone, this kind of stuff is going to happen. When you're in Philadelphia or Boston or New York, there are a lot of trips that you make that are really easy. When you live in the middle and you're and I'll throw Utah into the mix here. When you're two teams in the span of like 7 states, yeah, your travel is going to be harder. This is not new. But that doesn't mean that you don't hate it for the Denver Nuggets. But there's a line here. And the discourse that is going on right now on social media is just out of control. Okay? You can bring up that the Denver Nuggets landed after 4 a.m. today and have to turn around and get ready for a very consequential game, not because Dallas is a great team, but because they're trying to chase the Lakers like this game matters. You could point that out. But I would say that you need to tread lightly when you start making it about the travel you have to make if you are adjacent to the team. And I think some people are walking into a hornet's nest because it's sounding like they're making it about themselves more so than just pointing out that, hey, the Denver Nuggets, this trip kind of sucked. And also, to my original point of this is not new for teams in the Mountain Time Zone, the amount you bring it up, there's a limit here to where it's like, we get it. They deal with this most every year. It's part of the deal. Nobody likes it. It is a little unfair, but if you keep bringing it up incessantly, every time they go out on the road, guess what? They got to come back and they landed at 5 a.m. Like, that's when you start to get the real world people on you, right? And what I mean by that is the people that say, you know what? I had a quick turnaround to my job today too. And I had to get to work earlier than the Denver Nuggets did. I had to drive myself. And I'm doing more difficult work for less money. Like, I don't like inviting that because it's, as much as we try to compare sports to the real world, they're not. But when you keep on and make the Denver Nuggets like they are being targeted by the NBA, like doing what Utah Jazz fans have been doing when it comes to the fine they receive from Adam Silver. Like, we're on your side, but only for so long, and then you're being annoying and beating us over the head with this. We get it. The Nuggets have a difficult trip here, difficult turnaround. We understand it. Please don't make this seem like anything more than sport. Because then things can get real, like the real world, real fast. And people are talking about graveyard shifts and digging ditches and, manual labor. I think the best way to go about it is the way that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going about it.
I think we're just going to have to do a great job. It would be great if our plane can be ready to go when we need it most. But it's always delayed or something's wrong with it. So, the league got to figure that out, especially when we're having a back-to-back and the first game is ending at the time it's ending right now. So, and then we're losing an hour. So, but hey, it's the life we chose.
Right there at the end. It's the life you chose. Doesn't mean there aren't difficulties. Doesn't mean there aren't things that you don't hate. But at the end of the day, you need to understand the position that you were in and not make it an even bigger deal than it needs to be. It sucks that the Nuggets have to make these kind of turnarounds, and it sucks that their planes aren't working properly. We can all empathize to a degree, right? Now, how frustrating is a plane being delayed? It's one of the most infuriating things on planet Earth. But keep in mind, yours is a chartered flight. And I think, and this message isn't to the Denver Nuggets players. David Adelman constantly brings this up, and it gets a little bit played out and a little tired. The people that are covering the Denver Nuggets keep bringing up, it gets a little played out. It gets a little tired. Like, it's a real thing. It negatively impacts the Denver Nuggets, but it is not new. And it is also not the end of the world. In fact, the Denver Nuggets have become one of the best teams on the second night of a back-to-back. Why? Because they got to deal with this stuff. It's actually made them better in these situations. And I would not be surprised at all tonight. I'll let it ride because I was right about both the Avs and the Nuggets game last night in terms of my level of confidence and in terms of the comfortability level I had with both of those teams winning, which is to say not a lot with the Nuggets and a lot with the Colorado Avalanche. I'll let it ride. Nuggets are going to beat the Mavericks tonight. We just had one of these, and it was like, oh, the Nuggets on second night back, and then they won. Wasn't that the San Antonio game that they even rallied in the second half and won that game, if memory serves. I might have the opponent wrong. It's made them the best team on the second night of a back-to-back of anybody in the league. And guess what? No back-to-backs in the playoffs. So this is a regular season issue. Let's not make too much of it, and let's leave it in the regular season. Nuggets and Mavericks coming up tonight, 8 o'clock on Extra Sports 1300. It just gets to be a little much. Take a break, come back. Adam Silver, emphatically, full stop, he says, the NBA will fix their tanking issues as soon as this next season. How is he going to do it? Well, that's going to cost you extra. Sports' most embattled commissioner battling back, an emphatic Adam Silver, defending what he has done and vowing to fix what is wrong. Adam Silver at the Board of Governors meeting where they decided they're going to exploring expanding to Vegas and Seattle, as if they don't already know they will have teams in those cities in the near future. But the first thing he talked about, or I don't know if it was the first thing that he talked about that I want to talk about is tanking. And Adam Silver said when they meet in May, they will have the answer to tanking. Full stop, he ended his comment with. Let me get you the exact quote so you can experience. We are going to fix it, full stop. That's what the quote was. And talked about how they are going to change the way teams are rewarded in the draft process. Now, it would be nice if he just came out and said what they're talking about. Like, we're going to fix it, full stop. It's like Will Arnett when he's interviewing for the job at Dunder Mifflin. He's like, I effectively have a 5-step program that can double your profits. Okay, would you like to tell us? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. You give me the job, and then I'm going to tell you. It would have been better if Adam Silver would have said, this is what we're voting on. Because Adam Silver's promises are not worth a lot these days. He has bungled a lot with this league. So I'm sorry, until I know what the plan is, I'm not giving him my full vote of confidence that he's going to fix it. And doesn't need fixing. This feels like just an excuse for Adam Silver to do something radical that will then maybe allow his owners to make more money. Like, when he says we're going to drastically change things and all that, doesn't that sound like a tournament? Doesn't it sound like they're going to lock the lottery odds on a certain day, and then after you're going to pick up points? That's what it sounds like to me, reading between the lines. That they're going to say, okay, you're not in a playoff spot by this time. Now you're locked into this made-up competition that only you're competing in now, and you get rewarded by winning. Which I feel like is trying to swat a fly with a hammer. We have to honestly look at this and say, are the tanking teams bothering us? I understand what Utah did was beyond the pale. To actively pull out your best players for the fourth quarter of a game that is in the balance, so you would lose that game. That is an affront to the game of basketball that needs to be addressed. But the idea that Utah stinks and Washington stinks and they're making their roster bad so they can have a good draft pick, is it really bothering anybody? I really don't think that it is. It's just on top of the things that I don't know that Adam Silver can fix. And it makes it look worse. I don't have a problem with tanking. Tanking has worked numerous times. And the only thing that it impacts, think about where we're at in the NBA ecosystem. The Denver Nuggets, they're shooting for a title. The only negative that a tanking team presents is if the Nuggets somehow lose to them, the ridicule and scorn they will receive. Right? That's it. Does it bother you that the Denver Nuggets play a game against the Washington Wizards? No. It bothers you when they lose to the Washington Wizards, which is a Nuggets problem and not a Wizards problem. I don't think tanking is the thing that is ruining the NBA. I really don't. And this, whatever this is that Adam Silver and the governors are thinking about, I think it is going to make things even worse, because they are going to fundamentally change, again, just like the NBA Cup, they're going to fundamentally change the way a portion of the season is played. And it's not going to be better. At best, you're going to go, this is dumb, and I'm not paying attention to it, which is kind of what tanking is already. Are you paying attention to what the Wizards and do you even know who has the number one pick in the draft right now? Do you even care who has the number one pick in the draft right now? Let them have their tanking. It's not bothering anybody as long as they don't as long as they don't do what Utah does. It's fine. That's not the bigger issue. The bigger issue for the NBA are stars being load managed. And I actually think I agree with Adam Silver. He defended the 65-game rule today and said, I'm not ready to say it's not working. And I said this on the show yesterday. You feel gutted for Kate Cunningham. It is costing him millions of dollars. But you're not changing the rule for one guy. And as of right now, Jokic, Wemby, Luka, Shea, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, add to the list whoever you see fit. As we go down the guys that we think are going to be on the All-NBA teams, there's only one guy that's not going to make it, or it appears like he's not going to make it. So how can you say the 65-game rule isn't working? All these guys are going to play, and they're going to get enough games. Now, if something were to happen injury-wise, and we certainly don't hope this close to the playoffs that Jokic or Wemby or Luka get hurt, but then we can have a different conversation. But this was always a bigger issue than tanking, was load management. And Adam Silver, despite all odds, and despite his record on basically everything else with the game, some good is coming out of this. Not for Kate Cunningham, but for the fans. So good on him for standing his ground when it comes to the 65-game rule, because I don't think that we're at a time right now where it needs to be abolished. There's not one theoretical player missing out is not enough to change the rule. So that's working. Tanking isn't the deal that people make it out to be. Now, if Adam Silver can stop saying things like, well, you only need to watch highlights, and maybe lift some of these financial restrictions. He was so afraid of dynasties, and he wanted to spread the wealth around so much that he's overcorrected, and that's what I worry about. Whatever changes he's going to make to tanking is going to be an overcorrection. Instead of a slight tweak to maybe deter tanking, he's going to do something radical. Just like to answer the dynasty era of the NBA, he went too far. These teams can't stay together or won't stay together. Let's be real here. They won't stay together. NBA owners can pay all of these players. It's too punitive for their pocketbook. And as far as they would like. Doesn't mean they can't afford these people. The Boston Celtics can continue to write checks and write checks and write checks. The Golden State Warriors the same way, over and over and over again. But these financial rules are so restrictive that we have had a rotating cast of NBA champions. And I don't know that that's great for the league. I'm certainly happy that the Nuggets were able to get in when they did and get one. But now we're looking a few years later and we're like, this second apron kind of, if it didn't kill the Denver Nuggets' chances of winning a title and slam their championship window shut, Kroenke Sports Enterprises certainly used it as a reason to potentially slam the championship window shut. And that's always tricky. Can you not afford to keep the team together and afford to run it back? Or are you just saying you don't want to pay all that money? It's probably on a case-by-case basis, player-by-player basis. Some guys you're willing to go in the second apron for, others you're not. So I don't think that the rotating cast of champions has been great for the NBA. And it's a byproduct of the overcorrection to a very real concern from people about the dynasties. Although the NFL has been existing with dynasties for my entire life, I know nothing but dynasties in my entire life as an NFL fan. So I don't know that it's hurt the NFL. Why would it hurt the NBA? Again, is this really a problem? But there were people out there, I'm sure, that did not like dynasties. Overcorrected. And might have a worse situation. To where it's one champion in, then they're out, then they're not even. You know that over the last few years, the reigning NBA champion has not even made it out of the second round. In large part because they are not even close to the same team they were a year ago, because the second apron forced them to lose all these guys or gave them a reason to let all these guys go. This is what I worry about with the tanking thing. Is it really that big of an issue? And are you going to do something drastic that will swing the pendulum completely the other way and it won't make the problem better, if there is a problem to begin with? You know, there are some jobs in life that I say I can do and I really can't. I'm questioning what it really takes to be a commissioner. And whether that's unattainable by the general public. I can get a lawyer to negotiate TV rights if that's the big thing. I can hire somebody. Seems like the commissioner answers to the owners. It's not hard to, take the slings and arrows from the public to protect the owners. I could do that. And I would like to think I can look out for the fans, which even though the commissioner works for the owners, still supposed to be looking out for the fans, right? I think I could do that job. And I would promise you this: no more international regular season games. Our league stays on our home soil. And with basketball, it's our continent stays here. I'm including Toronto in this. Not exporting our product, our valuable product, outside of the United States. To wit, talking about the NFL on Thursday, the Thursday opener is being essentially replaced because Seattle's playing on Wednesday night to start the season, banner raising, all that hullabaloo. And then the next day, we're going to be treated to a game between the 49ers and the Rams that is being played in Australia. As the NFL continues to push the envelope, how far away from America can we get before you really get angry at us? To wit, very woke indeed on the Insta. Say what you want about soccer, but the fan culture would never allow the league to push consumers around like the NFL does. I will at least say, and I brought this comparison up before, I have seen Manchester United play in the United States. Loved it. Paid a lot of money to go watch it. It was a preseason game. It was a friendly. Would I love for United to come to Dick's Sporting Goods Park? Or they were at the Broncos Stadium at the time. Come to the Broncos Stadium and play, have the Manchester Derby in Adam Power Field at Mile High. Yeah, I'd love that. I don't think it's good for their business. I don't think there's any point to it. And if I were on the other side of the pond, I'd be upset about it. This is not about not wanting people in Germany and England and Australia to love the NFL. We want everybody to love the NFL, but you're going to have to fall in love with the NFL with watching preseason games. These soccer leagues would never send over one of their teams, let alone continuously explore expansion into the United States, like the NFL is thinking about making an all-Europe division. It's not about not wanting gatekeeping and not wanting people in other countries to love our sport. It would be great. It would be cool to talk to a Chiefs fan in Germany on social media and interact with them. But they're going to have to see Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes in the preseason. I'm about out of time, so I want to bring you a very important message from Low T Center. There are two types of guys in this world, the ones that have 22-year-old energy and ones who remember having 22-year-old energy. If you're in the latter category, your testosterone might be taking an extended vacation. Enter Low T Center. Their board-certified providers actually specialize in hormone health. It's not just another thing that they do. They know what to test, what to look for, and they only use pharmaceutical-grade testosterone, not the questionable stuff some places hand out. And here's a big win. Right now, you can get a free men's T-test, no risk, no commitment, plus select peptides and GLP-1s are $50 off, whether you're looking for better sleep, recovery, weight loss, or more energy. So stop blaming stress, altitude, the weather, your dog for the lack of energy. Get it back. Hit lowtcenter.com and get things back on track. That's lowtcenter.com. It has been my pleasure to serve you. Appreciate the interaction. Don't forget, tonight, 8 o'clock, Nuggets and Mavericks. How will the Nuggets respond after arriving to Denver at 4 a.m.? We will find out, and it will no doubt lead my show tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. And thanks for listening on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR.